Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Inside Athletic, the official club podcast of Dunfermline Athletic Football Club, where we give you, the listener, an exclusive insight into everything that's going on at KDM Group East End Park. I'm your host, Andrew Morrison, and I'll be joined very shortly by co-host David Buick and sports scientist Euan Donaldson, where we cover Euan's upbringing supporting the Pars, his time at Hibs and Kilmarnock, where he worked with some very promising young footballers, and what actually goes into a pre-season from a coach's perspective, as well as many other fascinating topics. Before that, let me get you up to date on everything that's been going on in and around the club throughout the last few weeks. First and foremost, season tickets for the 2024-25 season are now on sale and are available to purchase both online and in the club shop. The support throughout the last 12 months or so has been nothing short of outstanding, with the club recording its highest average attendances since 2005. Make sure to head over to dafc.co.uk for a full list of prices and financing options to make sure that you have your seat for what is set to be another exciting championship campaign. The club also secured its first signing of the transfer window, with a familiar face returning to KDM Group East End Park. That man is of course Chris Kane, who joins the club from St Johnstone on a 2-year deal. The striker initially joined the club on loan in February and scored an impressive 5 goals in 10 matches. We look forward to seeing Chris run out in the black and white once more. And Chris will have the opportunity to hit the ground running once more as the club announced a full list of their pre-season friendlies ahead of the season beginning. We kick off the season with a visit to Bayview to take on East Fife on the 28th of June before travelling to Cove 4 days later to take on Cove Rangers. We then welcome unconfirmed opposition to KDM Group East End Park on the 6th of July before we face off with Dundee on the 10th. For more information on these fixtures, make sure to check out the official club website. Lastly, the fixtures for the upcoming Premier Sports Cup group stage matches have been released, with the Pars being drawn into Group E. We begin our Premier Sports Cup campaign with a visit to Spartans on Saturday the 13th of July before hosting Forfar on Tuesday the 16th. We then travel to Livingston on Saturday the 20th, and a week later we face off with Cove in our final group stage encounter. All Saturday kick-off times are at 3 p.m, and our midweek match with Forfar is due to kick off at 7:45. That's you now up to date on everything that you need to know in and around the club. It's now time for me to pass over to David to welcome our very special guest Euan to the show. Cheers.
Right, ladies and gents, we've got joined by our guest now on episode 2 of Inside Athletic. It is Dunfermline Athletic sports scientist Euan Donaldson. Euan, thank you very much for joining us. How's things?
No problem. Doing away well, yeah. Delighted to be invited onto this. I looked at the kind of reaction to Hammy's appearance, and yeah, good to see that people got a lot out of it. But I'm sure everyone will be gutted that I'm not Chris Kane.
Well, yeah. A little birdie tells me we won't be waiting too much longer for that man's appearance. But yeah, so obviously we've just finished the end of the season. We're approaching pre-season, which I would imagine, as the sports scientist of the club, that's probably a busier time for you than anyone else, really, at the club, sorting things out for the boys coming back.
Yeah, it's a massive part of the season, pre-season. It's really, really important that we sort of build the players up, make sure that they're fit and ready just to start the season. Obviously, every season we give the League Cup a good go. So got to make sure that we're ready for the group stages. It's not a lot of time to prepare, but we'll have friendlies in place to make sure the boys are all match fit as well. On top of our side of things, where we're testing the players, making sure that they're robust. We'll assess the players in terms of their strength and their lower body, their power. Craig will do things from the medical side as well, our physio, just to make sure that the boys are right. And then from our testing, we'll kind of build programs for the players. We'll individualise things a wee bit in the gym for them, making sure that they're working in the right areas. If there's kind of any imbalances that on either side, that we kind of address that. Obviously, body fat assessments is a massive thing as well. But luckily, like last season and all throughout the season, the boys have kind of kept in good shape. They tend to come back in really good nick as well, to be fair to them. So yeah, it'll be a busy period, but it's always exciting. It's exciting just getting the season started again. Hopefully, it goes a lot better than last season. Not that it was too big a disappointment, but obviously we're just looking to improve going forward, and pre-season will play a big part in that. Hopefully, we can hit the ground running.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sweating just thinking about that sort of pre-season routine the boys will go through. See, in terms of the off-season before the boys come back, do you give them like, is there individual programs for when they're before they come back, or do you just kind of leave it to them? You know, is there that sort of trust there that they'll keep themselves in a good condition?
No, we make programs for them, and not that we don't trust them, but it's just to make sure that we're doing our bit, and it's more of a guidance kind of thing as well. Like you try and make sure that the players are doing the right things. Like at this time of the season, like you want to make sure they get their few weeks off, which they've had. You know, everyone's different. Some boys will need a few weeks off just to get over a couple of niggles. And then there's some boys that, you know, actually feel better the more they do. Like if they go a few weeks without doing anything, then they start to feel crap. So we need to make sure that, you know, we give them the right amount of guidance. But yeah, I'll be in touch with them as well, making sure that they're progressing well. And yeah, it's the friendlies kind of get started pretty quickly once we get back as well. So that's the other side of it. You want to make sure that they are fit and they are ready just to kind of get into the friendlies, or at least they've got a good head start. And then once we're back in, they're kind of all back in as a group that they're ready to go.
Right. So Euan, we're going to go back to the very start now, where I'm led to believe you started off as a student intern at Hibs. Where did you study?
I studied at Edinburgh Uni, just did the applied sports science course there. Then it was my fourth year at uni where I started off at Hibs. And yeah, I'd always wanted a job in football, and it just so happened that an opportunity came up. Offered to go in like 1 day a week, and then offered to do more. And they were happy for me to do that, so I started doing 2 days, and then that became 2 days in a game, and then kind of helping out just at the side of the pitch, basically just being a water boy. I wasn't too involved with anything. I was just kind of, you know, helping the process as you kind of have to do when you're first starting. But yeah, and then that developed into a part-time role, and then that became a full-time role, and then yeah, so spent 5 years at Hibs, really enjoyed it. The staff there were incredible, very, very talented staff. In terms of the kind of sports science and medical team there, they've all gone on to do great things. Colin's still there at Hibs. He's still the sports scientist. He's been there for a good few years now, but he was really, really good to learn from. Paul Green, who was the sports scientist at Dunfermline, he was the kind of person that brought me in and kind of guided me. Kind of got my philosophy from him, really. And he really, really helped me out when I joined Dunfermline as well, because I was taking over from him, which was really good of him. But yeah, it was really, really good times there. Top of the players that we were working with, like really, really talented players. A lot of managers, as this continues to be a revolving door there, but really good managers as well during my time. Could learn a lot from them as well.
Well, to be fair, the opportunity couldn't really have came at a better time with Hibs' Scottish Cup success in the 2015-16 season. Do you have any memories of that sort of era at the club? Guys like John McGinn, Dylan McGeoch at the club at that time. Do you have any dealings with them, or Lennon, or anyone like that, or even Stubbs?
Yeah, no, yeah. I was really, really lucky. I was like 8 months into my first role in football, and probably one of the most unforgettable days in Hibs history anyway. Lifting the cup after the first time in 114 years. I was just in pure disbelief. I couldn't believe that I was there to witness it. You know, like as an intern, you obviously don't play that big a role. Everyone says it's all a team, everyone's a collective, like pushing forward. But I was just standing at the side, just like I remember remember Paul Green was the sports scientist then, and it was heading for extra time, that 2-2 in the final, and he sent me and Steve, who's also at Dunfermline now, and he's working in the SFA as well. Paul Green sent us in to prepare the carbohydrate drinks, me and Steve ran inside, like, got to get these carbohydrate drinks ready for the players for extra time, got to be ready. And as soon as we came out, that's when we see David Gray bullet the header, and Steve Curran's a massive Hibs fan. He was going mental, and I was going mental as well. But yeah, it was just an incredible experience. I always think, like, from there, I was like, hopefully one day can I get to experience that with Dunfermline. But
yeah,
you know, it'll be a tough
Fingers
ask.
crossed.
But yeah, it was just, yeah, really, really, really special moment. One I'll remember forever. Like, I was just, yeah, couldn't believe it. But yeah, really, really good players as well. Like, obviously Stubbs was the manager then. Neil Lennon took over afterwards. But it was great to see players like John McGinn, Dylan McGeoch, and then there was like a really good core of like professional players there as well. Just like they kind of had that professional mindset, and made it really, really easy for us all to work with them. And they all got the rest of the group behind them. Paul Green was really good with strength and conditioning work. Was getting 2 to 3 sessions a week with the players. He's getting good time with the players, and Colin came in and helped out as well. But with us as a big team, like everyone kind of contributed that side of the things. And yeah, no, it was just really, really good times. Like that team was like super fit as well. Like Neil Lennon's training was really, really intense, and
Yeah,
you could see that on a day-to-day basis. So you could see like players were really flourishing. You could see like in games it was this exact same intensity, and I think that's kind of where the success kind of came from. But yeah, it was a really good core that kind of drove everything.
did you manage to behave at the cup final, or were you on the pitch and amongst it like everyone else?
I was on the pitch. There was a big photo of me in the Daily Record, and then is behind me getting absolutely lamped by a Hibs fan.
Oh, dearie me! At least
I had
he
an
didn't bring
uncle.
your name up when he was he was grassing, was he not? That was
I
a thing at the
know.
time. At least your name never came up then.
I was on the pitch for like 5 seconds, and I realised all the Hibs fans were out, and I was like, if I get lost here, I might not get back in the changing room. So I just a quick U-turn, and I was back. But yeah, my uncle was a big Rangers fan, and he was telling me, he was like, I saw you in the paper run on the pitch. It's like, you big hooligan. I was like, no, I was lasted like 2 seconds. I was back in the changing room.
Well, it seemed like it was worth it, to be fair. What a day for Hibs. It's, well, according to information, according to my research anyway.
Andy's research can be really hit and miss, so let's just hope he's done it properly this time.
Fingers crossed it's done correctly. But according to the research, I'm led to believe that you had quite a lot of dealings with the Hibs sort of academy set up. Is that correct?
Yeah. So that's where my part-time role started, was with the academy.
Oh.
Started off as a kind of water boy for the first team, essentially, like as a student intern, but then got my opportunity to work a bit closely with the players in the academy. So Steve Curran, as I mentioned before, he was the head of sports science for the academy at Hibs. Really, really good sports science, really good knowledge of kind of long-term athletic development. So I learned a lot from him and from the program that we had at Hibs, and it was really, really good. I look back on it now, and I got a similar role, as I probably going to talk about later at Kilmarnock, and that was when I noticed, obviously, that like what we had at Hibs was really, really good. The kind of contact that we had with the players, the kind of input that we were having, and we did it right as well. Obviously, there's a lot of sometimes sports science can be a bit of a controversial topic, or strength conditioning for young players. Like a lot of parents might think, oh, like lifting weights is gonna hurt my kid. It's gonna stunt his growth, or like that's a really stupid myth that I can think of. But lots of other things like, oh, he doesn't need to be too big, or he shouldn't be doing this, shouldn't be doing that. We knew what we were doing. Like we kind of built from early doors, like under 11s, under 12s. You kind of work on technique, you work on movement, you get the players kind of being able to use their body in the correct way. And then you obviously progress that through the age groups, try to apply a bit more strength through it. And then that's how you create kind of robust athletes who can move well, which is the most important thing. Like if you lack the mobility, then you're more likely to get injured. And those early ages are really, really key to make sure that you're learning skills that can last your lifetime, and can help you kind of prolong your career later on. We had a really, really good setup at Hibs Academy, but unfortunately couldn't continue that any longer than I had, but it worked out better for me as I got further opportunities to kind of apply what I learned at Hibs later on.
Yeah, sorry, Andrew, just before you come in again, just to pick up something you said there, Euan, about working with young lads and stuff. How important is it that they buy in, the players? Obviously, the work you're doing, obviously you've not been, you're still quite young in your career at this, but I would imagine even 10 years ago, the level of buy-in from players might not be what it is now. How important is that the players kind of get behind what you're trying to do?
I think at younger ages, it's easier to get that buy-in because they trust you. They know that you know what you're talking about. It's more like kind of senior pros where it's kind of harder to get that buy-in. But now it's sports science. Sports science has been in football for long enough that they know how important it is. Obviously, you've got to approach players in a kind of personal way. Like it's all about how you are with people. I was lucky enough to get a lot of coaching experience during my time at Hibs and outside of Hibs as well. I went to America for 3 months to kind of just coach football, nothing to do with sports science or strength conditioning, and that really helped me kind of build my confidence and build up my kind of personability with players. It's easy. I think creating that it can be difficult at times, but if you speak to the parents, speak to the players, and you can explain your rationale, how it can help them, then they tend to understand it. And it's the same for senior players as well. It's more of a kind of mature conversation in terms of some players, as you said, I'm quite young in my role. There's a few players there that are older than me. So a common phrase I use is, listen, you know your body better than I do. No matter how many tests I run, what I do, no matter what my opinion is, like you know your body better than me. If such and such, if doing a certain thing isn't going to prepare you for a game properly, if you don't feel like that's going to work for you, then fair enough, we can find a different alternative. So it's just about kind of having that kind of like a mature conversation, and then also you got to make sure that they're enjoying the gym as well. A lot of young kids, like they might get dragged into the gym and they think that they're going in to get an absolute beasting and they're not going to enjoy it. But me and Steve, we played a lot of games with the kids just as a kind of warm up game, but stuff that would actually get them moving in a different way, stuff that would the stuff that they enjoyed, stuff that brought a smile to the kids, so they always had a kind of positive outlook on the gym rather than before. I remember going into Hibs and some of the under 20s at the time, they hated the gym because I think by then it was still like seen as an early thing. Sports science was just kicking off then. So when they were maybe experiencing it as an academy player, when those under 20s were like under 13s, under 14s, like they maybe thought, oh, this isn't that great. I'm not really enjoying this. But we kind of came in with a different spin to try and bring in that buy-in.
Well, there's few better success stories from the Hibs Academy than Josh Doig, the Scottish internationalist, in line to get a place in the Euro 2024 squad. Did you have many dealings with him, Euan? What would set a player like that about? What would set him apart from the rest of the players in the squad?
So he was he came into the academy pretty late. He was at Hearts first, and then he joined Hibs. I think he was only at Hibs for 3 years in total, and maybe a year and a half or 2 years of that was in the academy. It was more his technical ability that he really stood out. I think physically he was a bit behind some of the players. I remember him being pretty scrawny. I hope he's not listening. I'm thinking I'm slagging him off. I didn't know him extremely well, and I can't proclaim to be like saying that I still message him or anything now. But no, he was. I remember his technical ability being really good, and he did suit the style of play really well at Hibs, like what we were trying to do. But obviously we worked with him a wee bit longer. I remember him being pretty robust, like the rest of the players. He did have to kind of catch up because we were pretty on top of our strength conditioning with the players then. Like we had players like Fraser Murray, who was incredibly fit. Josh Campbell was another one who was incredibly fit. And these players have kind of kicked on. And the whole group was like that. And I think he took a wee while just to adjust, but no, he just seemed to just go from strength to strength, which is a common theme among players that I've worked with who have kind of gone on for success. They just continue to surprise you. They get chucked into the deep end, and then they surprise you, and then you give them another test, and then they excel through that, and they just keep going up and up, and you don't really know where their ceiling is. It completely goes past to what you maybe thought at the time. So yeah, other players I kind of worked with, Ryan Porteous, he was the same. You kind of always knew that he had that potential. It was more down to his mentality. And physically, he was really, really good. I know Steve worked with him from a very early age, before I kind of had more of a dealing with him. Before I started working with the under-20s a little bit closely. But yeah, his mentality. He was really switched on in training, really switched on in the gym. Had that kind of professional mindset from an early age. And again, just went from strength to strength.
It's helped to stop getting sent off as well now. That's helped him progress.
I know. I think that's where most of his injuries have come from, is from stupid knee slides and tackles and everything. But no, he's done really, really well. He's really kicked on. Really happy for him to see him in the Scotland squad, because he does deserve it. I know he can be a bit of a controversial figure in Scottish football, but
he's a top player.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought him up, because when Hammy was on last time, we were talking about Billy Gilmore, and I'm just desperate to see if anyone's got any spare tickets for the Euros hanging about. So, if you give Ryan a text, come on.
I'm going to Germany myself. I'm trying to look for something. I'm struggling.
Well, I asked Hammy if he was texting Billy for tickets, and he said he wasn't going to bother. But I think everyone's in the same boat. Whatever they can do to try and get some tickets. But Hibs, obviously, it's a great stories there. You moved on to Kelly, obviously a bit further on in your career now. You kind of probably at this point in your life knew a little bit more what you were doing, probably a bit more responsibility at Kelly. How was that move there?
Yeah, it was weird to start off with, because it was during COVID. So it was really weird it's a weird setting to come into. It was difficult. It just felt like I had nothing. Could barely get into the gym. There was so many restrictions put in place, but I think there was another lockdown after I joined. I was doing a lot of remote learning, remote kind of gym classes, and it was just doing like star jumps and press ups over Zoom, and I think like 50 of the academy kids and their parents would join in, and it was like I was like Kilmarnock's Joe Wicks. It was just like, it was so strange.
You get to spy on everyone else's living rooms at that time as well. Lockdown was weird like that. You're getting a right good look at people's houses. Great to be nosy.
But after all that passed, Kilmarnock was a brilliant place to learn. I really, really enjoyed it there. The people were absolutely fantastic. I couldn't speak highly of them. I still look out for the results. I'm really, really glad that they had such a good season. Really, really good people behind the scenes there. But for me, it was a good chance just to. Obviously, I became the head of Academy Sports Science there. Kind of took under my wing about like 112 players in terms of like gym programs and kind of monitoring their loads and trying. Well, not that we had GPS or anything like that, but just trying to look after them in the best possible way. Trying to take what I learned from Hibs and apply it there. Another skill was learning kind of how to manage people, like bringing interns in, how to kind of figure out the people who wanted to do well versus the people who didn't, which is quite similar to my experience at Hibs. Obviously, I went in and I was dying for a job in football. I would have done anything to get a job. I was going in extra days when pre-season started and I was off. I was in every day. So it was good to kind of see what that kind of looked like from the other side. And there's a lot of staff members there who started with me in the academy who kind of kicked on and worked a bit more closely with the players. I think maybe got part-time roles with the women's team or the academy. I'm not quite sure, but it was good to see kind of the people who wanted it, the people who maybe didn't show enough commitment. Like, what's the kind of difference between the two, or kind of things to look out for if that ever happens in the future. And then the academy players, they were absolutely fantastic. The work ethic was brilliant. I think they had a kind of strong work ethic within the academy. Like at Kilmarnock, when you train and when you play, you're going to give everything. And I think the coaches kind of reinforced that, and that came from the top, right from everyone. So and that's how you kind of see some players there kind of kicking on and doing well.
So you touched earlier briefly on sort of beginning your role as the COVID pandemic had kind of kicked off. How did the pandemic actually affect the work that you do?
Well, I somehow got the job as COVID coordinator, which was a major pain in the ass. Like, it was so frustrating.
I had to do that for an amateur football team, and that was an absolute nightmare in itself. So that must have been so much worse.
Like sending away letters to the SFA, try to say like how, like if we had a few players that got COVID, like what was the reason? Was there any possible way that they were breaking social distancing rules or something, like looking for ways to trip you up?
You guys weren't flying to Dubai like the Celtic team, were you? There was no
yeah,
Dubai
no,
trips,
that wasn't us. No, we did everything by the book, from what I can remember, and it's so. It kind of killed the players a wee bit in terms of their socialising. Like you weren't a group. You kind of just turned up for training, did training, and went home in your kit. Like you didn't hang around. In terms of the gym, it was really difficult to get in the gym. Luckily at Kelly, they had the first team gym, which we were not allowed access to whatsoever. But they had another gym that we could use, and we're kind of going around the houses in terms of different gyms around Kilmarnock that would be big enough to house us. But you learn from these experiences, and you kind of know, oh, hopefully it'll never ever happen again. But say a player for whatever reason can't come into work or gets injured, that you can create programs for them, like my off-season programs, like you can kind of take a lot from what you've done during those the COVID times, and use that and see what actually happens when the players are off for so many weeks, or like what's the right amount to give them when they're away. How do you build them back up to what you need them to be? I think the downside of COVID was like for a time you didn't know when the players were going to be back, but at least now like everything's a bit more routine. Like we'll be back in 4 or 5 weeks, and you've got a time frame to work from. How to build the players up with that. It's a good amount of time to be able to build the players up as well. But yeah, I could do without another pandemic, to be honest.
You're not the only one. Not the only one. Now, I'm obsessed with all things Scottish football, Euan, and one of the greatest success stories from Scottish football, particularly this season, has been David Watson. I want to ask you a few things about him first and foremost. Obviously, his success this season is, unpredictable from just the average sort of Scottish football fan. What was it like to work with David? Because it looks as if he could reach the very, very top.
He was the best kid I think I've ever worked with in terms of his mentality. Like he, again, like Ryan Porteous, another one that had that kind of professional mindset very early on. Came from a brilliant family. Had many chats with them. His wee brother was in the academy as well. So I was kind of looking after both of them as much as I could, just as the same amount for all the players there. But yeah, he's just everything he's done. I know that he'll take loads of awards and he'll say thanks to coaches, thanks to his parents, thanks to the players around him. But everything he's done is down to him. Like his work ethic was absolutely fantastic, and he was another one that just kind of surprised you. Like the more and more he did, or like every day he would do something different. Like you'd think, oh, I didn't know he could do that. And when I was kind of watching Kelly this season, watching the highlights of a few of the games or seeing his goals, I was just like, I never knew he could do that. Like he's just like he's one of these players that just kind of like he was always going to do well just from his mindset, but in terms of his technical ability, how he'd fill out physically, that was always kind of going to be the question. And there was players that were better than him technically, no doubt about it when he was younger. But he's just been the one that's just kind of kicked on, and every experience he's had, where it's like, oh, first reserve game done well, first team game done well, played a different position, did well. Like it was just. Every time you saw him, he was just doing like something different, and then it just became a whole new level this season. Like he scored a goal against Aberdeen, which was absolutely incredible. He kind of took the ball down in the turn level and then just curled it in the top corner. Had a mazy run against St Mirren. I think the St Mirren defence made it easy for him. But yeah, it's just incredible. I really hope he goes on to do well, because I don't think there's not many players I've worked with before that deserve it more.
Do you think he'll reach the very top? In your opinion,
it's difficult for me to say. I'm not a scout, or I can't say that I've got much experience in talent ID, but I don't see any reason why not. The things that he's done this season have been brilliant. I think he was starting to kind of drop in at the team towards the end of the season, but he'll be the type of boy that just like takes it on the chin and just keeps going. So yeah, I really hope so. As long as he's getting game time, that's the main thing, because you see a lot of players get opportunities like that. They play a few games and then they go down south and they kind of end up playing the under-23s for a few years and then they're coming back or something like that. Some players get on to do well. Like, I know Billy Gilmore did something like that. Obviously went to Chelsea before he had a first team debut for Rangers. But I think now that David has those appearances within the first team, I think he needs to keep going, like to try and build on that. Where that is, I don't know. I think he should stay at Kelly, but that's me probably being a wee bit biased. And if he's not going to get the opportunities at Kelly, then perfect loan opportunity.
We'll take him. That'll do. You get on the blower this summer.
What a signing!
I think our heads would be in the sky with that one, but yeah, absolutely. I don't see why not. Like if Ryan Porteous can go down, with his mentality, if David Watson has the same kind of thing, then I don't see why he can't go down and have good success.
Yeah, obviously a great player, but listen, we've talked about all these Diddy clubs now. Let's get to the real stuff. Let's get to the Pars now. Now, Euan, I don't know, the interesting thing about when obviously you joined the club in 2022, I think, was that right? 2022 you came in? Yeah. So obviously especially for the average fan, I would say most fans don't really know too much about the staff beyond maybe like the assistant manager, a couple of coaches. And I remember the first time it was a game against Partick Thistle in the Cup, and we played them at Firhill, and I was away. And I remember getting a text from one of my mates at the game, and he's going, "Who's this new sports scientist we've got? He's going absolutely mental on the sidelines, getting the fans up and all the rest of it." And actually, I didn't know until recently that you're actually a Pars fan as well. So, first of all, getting the job at Dunfermline, that must have been class for you as a fan.
Yeah, it was a really proud moment for me. Again, like I'll speak highly of Kelly. Like they were really, really good and kind of letting me go. It kind of served a pretty short notice, but I did right by them. Like the guy that they brought in, I kind of helped to try and train him up and kind of learn the process at Kilmarnock before he got the job, and obviously let him kind of build it from there. But yeah, for me it was massive. It was everything I'd wanted. I knew early doors that I was never going to be a football player, so wanted to be. I originally wanted to be a physio. I remember Pip Yates. I don't know if you'll know who he is.
Yeah.
He was a physio at Dunfermline. He went on to Rangers in Scotland. I think he came into my school, my primary school, and that was when I realised I was like, if I'm not going to be a footballer, which very likely, I want to be a physio. But I went through school, didn't get good enough grades to be a physio, unfortunately, but managed to get good enough grades to study sports science, and then that's how I kind of built up from there. Kind of become more of a strength and conditioning coach / sports scientist. There's a few different titles you could give that role, but I wanted it like all throughout my life just to be involved in football, and to work for Dunfermline was a dream come true. My dad, a massive Dunfermline fan. My granddad was a massive Dunfermline fan. I remember phoning my dad, telling him that I was going to join Dunfermline. He was so proud. I think I was only on the phone to him, but I could hear his smile. So yeah, I was absolutely buzzing. Came in, and it's the first season was brilliant. It was quite funny. I was speaking to a lot of people. They're like, "Oh, it's amazing! You've got your dream job. That must be really good for you." It's just like, yeah, if your dream job's to be a sports scientist for a team in Scotland's third division, then yeah, but setting your bar pretty low. But no, for me, it was massive. It was really, really proud moment for me.
Well, you seem to have a knack of joining clubs at the perfect time, because in your first season at the Pars, we won the League One title and gained promotion back to the Championship. So first and foremost, I wanted to ask you, how did you find the transition from the facilities that were available to you at Kilmarnock, like compared to the Pars? Obviously, we're still similar sort of size of club. I'd imagine the facilities behind the scenes at the Pars are very good, but just how did you find the transition overall?
It's more the transition from academy to first team football, but I'd worked with first team players off and off my life for it to kind of hit the ground running. It's a great group of boys to work with. The more difficult side of it was just having kind of conversations with the manager and making decisions, because that's something I'd never ever done before. Kind of being the lead and being the person to go to. So you kind of have to believe in yourself a lot more and believe in what you think, because there's no one else to kind of fall back on. But the manager's been fantastic with me. He's been really, really good. He really buys into sports science in terms of GPS monitoring. He understands that the work that we do in the gym is really, really important for the players. He wants that work ethic from the players as well, to want to do more, to want to be better, and to do the extras. From that side of things, I think that was probably the most difficult transition. But no, it was, the first few months were brilliant for me. First season was fantastic. I actually joined just after, I think the day after the Montrose game when we lost 2-0. So didn't lose a league. I didn't lose a game in the league for the rest of that season.
Bad. That's not bad. You can have that
over
great
all the
omen,
boys. Great omen.
Yeah.
Couldn't have went any
you
better.
were undefeated in League One. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Well,
I can't take any credit for that, to be fair. Obviously, the work that Paul Green did before me as well as the rest of the staff and the players, that's their achievement, to kind of get out of that league in the way that we did.
So, as we mentioned, great achievement to get out of League One at first time of asking, especially only going, losing once.
Could have taken 5 times to get out of League One. Some teams have done that recently, but
I know, yeah, too right. We have noticed that you've made 1 or 2 changes to this sort of routine on a match day. One of which is getting the players to warm up either in front of section Northwest or as close to the away fans as possible if we are on the road. What's your sort of reasoning for that? Is it just to try and give the boys the extra sort of motivation prior to kick-off, or is there any other sort of reasoning behind it?
Yeah, well, I always thought that's where they did it before, was in the section Northwest. But I knew that the fans would kind of give the players an extra boost, especially if it was a big game and they were all there early. I remember the Falkirk game last season, the 2-0 game. That was the most mental warm-up I've ever taken. The atmosphere was just incredible. I was like, I don't need to shout or anything. Like, just get the players just doing the usual things, and every one of the players had their own chant, and they were going through them, the whole songbook. It was brilliant. To stop myself from joining in. But yeah, and then for away games, I'm probably staying closer to the away fans because I want to avoid the home fans in case they give the players any pelters or anything. But maybe I need to do more of that. Maybe we'll have better luck on the road if the players get that extra bit of motivation from the home fans. But yeah, I think going back, there's a funny story that I got from Louis Stevenson when he was at Hibs. I think he made one of his early appearances against Falkirk, and this was back before players had Wikipedia and stuff like that. I think so anyway. So a Falkirk fan somehow found out that Louis Stevenson was from Fife. So he was giving him absolute dog's abuse, calling him every name under the sun, every swear word you can think of, and Louis just goes, "Oh, that's great! Someone knows my name." So it's just sometimes it can work against the fans just doing stuff like that. But yeah,
fame's fame, no matter how you get it. Obviously, we mentioned the Falkirk game you brought up. We had some massive games that year. Your celebrations have been caught on camera a few times and gone viral. How much did you just enjoy watching the lads, especially in think of that Airdrie game, the game of 3-0 down against Airdrie. I mean, days like that for you on the side, after your work's done pre-match, you get to enjoy it with almost the best seat in the house.
Yeah, enjoy's it's not the word I would apply all the time, but yeah.
No, not for the first half that day anyway.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. As a fan, you win twice, because you win as a member of staff and you win as a fan, but it's the same for if you lose. So it's quite stressful. But I don't want anyone to think that I'm just a fan who's just been lucky and got a job with the team I support. Throughout the week, I like to think of myself as pretty professional, pretty diligent. I've got all my kind of checklists, every day there's something to do, whether it's like upper body after the gym, lower body, the kind of warm up that you do. You have to make sure that you're doing the right kind of things based on what their load's been like the previous day, or if players are doing recovery, you've kind of got all those things to stay on top of. But when it comes to a match day, like as you say, like it's just you are in the best seat in the house. I've always supported the teams that I've worked with, kind of in that way, like try to see the players on a wee bit as much as I can, as much as I'm allowed to. Anyway, I think the first game of the season, the referee came over and spoke to me against Airdrie, which I couldn't believe. I don't know why.
That takes some pressure off Dave Mackay though, because it's normally him.
Yeah, I know. But, yeah, I was quite surprised at that moment. But yeah, probably need to rein it in a wee bit. But no, it's more the moments that when the crowd are kind of behind you, like right behind you. Like I remember the Queen's Park game. I knew the fans were going to be behind me, and that game went really, really well. And I get jealous. Like I do kind of wish I was able to kind of experience that as a fan. Which is probably why I celebrate like I do or react like I do. But it's the same like Partick. Like I always like going to that stadium because the fans are right behind you.
Yeah.
And when they're celebrating, like it really gives me a boost. I'd hope it'd be the same for the players. But yeah, but that Airdrie game, yeah, it was just, it felt almost inevitable after we got the first goal. You kind of felt like it's not out with realms of possibility that we get this win, and it wasn't even like it wasn't exactly the last minute that we got it. Must have been 4 goals inside kind of 20-25 minutes. I think it was 87th, or still a late goal, but it didn't take us the whole game to have to turn it around. Yeah, I don't know what happened that day. Honestly, I think Hammy talked about it as well, like just how that happened. But yeah, it was kind of conflicting with myself there. It kind of felt inevitable, but I still don't know how it happened. Yeah, it was just one of those days. It was really, really strange.
Yeah, one of them that'll live with all of us forever. You mentioned there about the fans and getting behind the team, and obviously, I've mentioned a lot recently that I think certainly since James has come in as manager in the last couple of seasons, the kind of togetherness with the fans and the team is probably better now than it has been for a long time. Obviously, you as a fan will know previously before you joined the club, the season we went down and stuff, there was a bit of a division, a bit of a divisiveness between fans and the players. There wasn't that much unity around the club. Have you noticed that as a fan previously, now being involved with the club, there seems to be a bit more of a togetherness? We're all pulling in the same direction.
I'd say so, yeah. There is there is a bit more of a connection. I think it comes from there's a good core of boys there who are like either local or like in Cammy's case, he's obviously a fan himself. He knows how important it is to keep that connection with the fans, and it's important that the players maintain that and the staff maintain that connection with the fans as a football club. But yeah, like it's important that the fans just keep supporting us, because every game we've played this season, we have gave our all. I can't think of a game where I can fault the players' effort, really. Even like going back to the kind of dark days of Morton 5-0, Queen's Park 3-0, like we still kind of gave everything. It was just we were just going through a really, really rough spell. But then like that completely flips when we play Dundee United and batter them 3-1, quite comfortably, like the best team in the league. We did really, really well. Like, that was our best performance by an absolute mile. So yeah, it's important just to maintain that support, because things can change really, really quickly in football. I'd say looking back on that season we got relegated, it was difficult. I wasn't making a lot of the games because it was obviously working in football. You can't make that many games. But yeah, I was there the day we got relegated, and yeah, it was really rough. I've never known East End Park to be that kind of atmosphere. But thankfully, like it's never been anywhere close to like that. No matter how bad the results have been in the championship, or how bad a performance has been, we've always kind of, the fans have always been there. They've always backed us in numbers as well, and just kind of hoping that keeps going. because I think that's massive in the Championship. The games are so close; they can be decided by small margins. We might be one of the most well-supported teams in the league next season, but away teams will react to that. They'll, as they always do, sometimes their performance lifts the bigger the crowd is. So we just have to make sure that the crowd's been, has the right atmosphere towards us and has the right backing for us.
Fingers crossed. I mean, it's another big season next year, obviously, after we secured survival in the Championship. I did want to ask, obviously the Championship is probably one of the most demanding leagues in Scotland. It's full throttle all the time. Anything can happen. There's just so much nonsense that seems to happen in the league, to put it bluntly. How would you say the demand of sort of the Championship has affected your role as sports scientist? How would that compare to sort of the demand of League One, where maybe there's sort of less fixtures, or sort of more time in between fixtures?
It's been, well, the demands are higher in terms of each game. Like, I feel like the players have kind of been asked to do a bit more. If I look back on the kind of, like, I'm the one that sees the data. I see the stats for the players and how much they do. But the better teams you play, the more you end up running. And it'd be funny, you'd think in some games where it doesn't look like they do a lot, and they do, and then it works the opposite way. You think that they do a lot, and it turns out they haven't done as much in terms of their total distance or the number of sprints, the sprint distance they cover. But the demands have definitely been a lot higher. I think also the fact that a lot of the games have been a lot closer, so you're still running late on into the game, whereas like games last season, we were probably 2-0 up or 2 goals up, and it kind of peters out. It was the only game that we kind of won that comfortably. Last season was probably Arbroath, the 3-0 game. But yeah, like the demands are so much higher. Like the games against Airdrie and Partick as well. Like, I remember looking at the stats and thinking, that's a lot. But obviously they're the teams that kind of play a bit more possession based. You're asked to do a lot more that way. Dundee United was the same. Raith Rovers was a little bit different because of just the way the games were. Like, I think looking back, everyone was really disappointed with all those performances. But like there wasn't a lot in them. There really wasn't a lot.
No.
Looking back, as a fan, like I know the fans will have their opinions and they might think that the players didn't try hard enough or whatever. But like all the games were really close. On a different day, we could have won them. But hopefully, we get the chance to put that right next year. I don't know how the playoff results are going to go, but we'll just wait and see. But obviously, we've got a few other teams to think about as well. As the quality of the opposition improves, the demands do get a lot higher. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just quickly again on last thing I want to cover about, and it ain't something we want to talk about much because I think we're all fed up with talking about it. We mentioned it with Hammy. Obviously, injuries was a major part of the season. I don't want to talk too much about injuries themselves, but just from you, because I think a lot of people forget with staff and stuff at the club. I mean, that must have been really tough for you working in sports science. It's kind of linked to the medical department. For you personally, how was that? Because obviously you're working with guys who are, dropping like flies, it felt like at times. What was kind of like the toll on you and the other staff? Because it must have been pretty tough at times.
Yeah, it was. I'll not lie, like it was probably the toughest experience I've had in football. And I've had quite a few like results that have been tough, but in terms of that time period, it was horrific. The amount of luck that we had was just incredible, like, or the lack of luck that we had. I look back on it, made myself go through it, but you kind of have to. In terms of growing and development, but obviously it's not all down to us. It's to what the players have gone through throughout the season, what the training's like and everything. But like I look back on it and like there's nothing, there's very very little we could have done. I won't say that like me personally, just talking about me, like I wasn't perfect, but in terms of how the season went in terms of injuries. But at the start of the season, it was all kind of contact injuries. It was all really stuff that you can't avoid.
Free accidents, so many of them as well. Like
stuff that just happens. Looking back at League One, our season in League One, like I can't think of any contact injuries we had, and I was there for 8 months, and so just saying in 8 months there wasn't any contact injuries that I could think of, and then we start off the season with 3 pretty significant ones, and then Kane Richie Hosler had a horrible time of it. I think he had 3 throughout the season. It was, but then after that, like we've got a lot of games in a short period of time. There's the squad's like quite short towards the end of the year, where there's like not an opportunity to bring players in. So then when the players are being asked to kind of play through the pain barrier, like it just kind of adds to the toll. So yeah, it was really tough for me, but what I'll say about the rest of the staff is that everyone was really, really fantastic. The players were fantastic in terms of their work ethic to get back and to continue the season. The manager was brilliant with me, and we were always looking through it, and he always trusted me. And the training was really good. We didn't have to change that much. So we got back into a good rhythm, and then we finished the season pretty well. And we didn't really, I don't know, it's so hard to explain. It's so hard to explain, but I just hope we don't have that run of luck again. Obviously we will try to look to improve and be better next season, as you always do. But yeah, it's difficult, but we'll move past it. We got past it, we learn from it, and can only hope that things get better next season.
Fingers crossed. I think I speak for all Pars fans here when I say I'm kind of glad that season is done and dusted. And the excitement of pre-season sort of begins. Season tickets have been released. We'll be getting the new kit in the coming weeks. There'll be 1 or 2 incomings. Obviously now looking ahead to pre-season. It's a lot of fans don't really know what goes into a pre-season. A lot of them just sort of refresh their Twitter feed expecting to see a new signing appear in the notifications.
That's me,
but
every single day, 5 p.m, just scrolling.
Yeah,
scrolling,
me as well. That's me as well.
But can you sort of give us an insight, Euan, into what actually goes into pre-season from your perspective? Because I'd imagine an awful lot of fans don't actually know the sort of ins and outs of what you would of what you do sort of during the pre-season period, because everyone just thinks it's downtime for players, but obviously you and other members of staff are still working very hard.
Yeah, well, this is probably the point where people will switch the podcast off if they haven't already, where I bore everyone to death. But
not at all.
So the players will come back. We'll run through quite a few fitness tests. We've got a good number of them just to assess, like just for example, things like hamstring strength, kind of groin strength, looking at their mobility, looking how well they can move, assessing imbalances, assessing what their kind of power output is like, what that's like, jumping off both feet, off single leg, and then obviously the dreaded fitness test. Thankfully our one isn't too long, but the players still hate it. But it's important. You need to know where the players are at in terms of their base, and look at all areas, leave no stone unturned, and try and individualize things for them. It's stuff that we've always done. Like touching briefly back to last season, like it's stuff that we did, and we would have done it the season before. We had no injuries. Did it last season, and things are different. But yeah, we'll do body fat assessments as well, just to see if the players are looking after themselves. And thankfully, we do have a very professional group, and they all do look after themselves brilliantly. And then just sit down with the manager, just go through the first few weeks, just see what days we can hit the players hard, what days we won't, what days will come off them, what training will look like, just the things that we always do. I'm quite lucky that the manager kind of listens to me and listens to my input, and just to hopefully set the players up as best we can, but through our own practice, through the data that we get in as well, and then obviously just try and individualize things from them, build programs, build gym programs, build fitness programs, try to prioritize the areas of weakness, prioritise areas where we can build them up in terms of their strength or the fitness, whatever it might be. There's quite a lot goes into it. It is a busy period, but it's important. It's really, really important that we kind of set the players up as best we can.
No, I can imagine. It seems absolutely hectic just from hearing all the things you were saying there. But obviously, we have now got the added benefit of the precise sort of training setup. How big an impact do you think will sort of having all the players congregated in one area have on the work that you do? Will it make it easier, do you think? Or?
Yeah, I think there's still a little bit of work to do with Rosyth, but the Astros is the playing surface there is really good. It's good just to have our own base, kind of a bit more privacy as well, from where we were before. Not that it was too big an issue before anyway. But yeah, I think the players get that kind of extra buzz that like it's an area that is theirs. Sorry, it belongs to them, and it's for them. It's purpose built for them. I think it drives the players on that wee bit more. But yeah, and there's small things that you can do, like different things you can do in training, when you do have that space available to you. But yeah, the facilities at the club are brilliant. Like the gym is fantastic as well. It's a really, really good place to work. Yeah, obviously that's still based at the stadium, but yeah, in terms of the facilities overall, like it is a really good place to work. A place that the players come in, they enjoy coming in. The environment is good. Obviously, as a staff, we try and help create that environment, create that culture to, where the players enjoy themselves. But obviously, with the main goal of kind of being successful, try to look after the players as best we can, try and keep them injury free as best we can, try and keep them strong, keep them fit, and go beyond that, try and be fitter, stronger, faster than everyone else, and do all the small little things that make a difference. Exciting times.
Well, we don't want to keep you here all night, so we'll get close to wrapping this up. I've got a couple of quick fire questions for you, Kirk, in a minute. But first of all, I don't know if you remember, there was a story years ago about Jose Mourinho when he was at Chelsea, and they had this Scottish masseuse, I think he was, that was there. And one game, Jose, he was doing his team talk, and he went to the masseuse and got him out of the team talk. James, ever asked you to do that? You ever fancy getting the boys going with a big rallying cry before a game?
No, I think I would just crumble if I wasn't. I wouldn't have the faintest idea what to say. As you can tell, I'd probably go red immediately, and then players would just laugh their head off. Well, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that would work. Maybe it would help them relax going into the game. But
you never know.
I'll leave that to the manager.
Anyway, quickly, obviously, we talked about you growing up as a Pars fan. Favorite player as a kid growing up as a Pars fan?
Barry Nicholson was my favourite player. Number 7 was kind of saw that as my number, and quite liked watching him play. Never saw his goal against Inverness. I think I fell asleep.
It's on YouTube though. It's brilliant.
Yeah, saw it the next day. I was quite lucky. I remember that so vividly. Like I was ill. I was really, really unwell. So me and my dad didn't make the trip, but woke up the next morning and my dad had actually like drawn me a graphic. I was really young at the time, and he put in like Dunfermline 3, Inverness 2. We were off to Hampden. I was absolutely buzzing.
So was that like your generation growing up watching the team? So I was going to ask you about your favourite memory next, but I imagine that cup final must be up there, at least the first 45 and half time.
Yeah, just the day, like my whole family was there, like my granddad, my uncle. It was just that's what embodies being a Dunfermline fan to me. Like just having your family there, like for moments like that, weren't able to lift the cup that day, but at half time, it was brilliant. I can't even remember it that well, but I think a lot of my best memories have come from actually working at Dunfermline now. Like obviously that Falkirk game was unbelievable, and winning the league was brilliant. And then this season that Partick game where we won 3-1 felt like a proper U-turn. Like we'd come back from all the injuries. Like Matty Todd had come back, Richie Hosler had come back. Like there was that. It was more uplifting after being so down earlier about the injuries. Like we managed to get back to where we were, and went on a good run from there really.
Well, I do have one more question for you, Ewan. I have been told that you're a big fan of football kits, as am I. So I did want to ask you, what is your favourite Pars kit of all time and why?
Probably that the 03-04 season. I've always preferred the pinstripe strips, just white,
Yeah.
black, small black lines. Yeah, that was my first season as a season ticket holder. Obviously, so many like memorable players like Crawford, Brewster, Barry Nicholson. Finished fourth that season in the league. Got to the cup final. Yeah, I think, and we wore an alternative strip that game. But yeah, I always, I think I've always been put off like alternative kits from then on,
Yeah.
like for one match,
We
I
did that in
think
2007 as well, did we not, for the cup final? I'm sure we wore a black, it was like an all black kit or something bizarre
yeah,
like
and we lost that game as well. So I was like, why change it? I think
Exactly.
maybe if we kept that strip, maybe we would have held on for the 1-0. But I don't know. It would have been a tough ask against that Celtic team with Larson. But yeah,
If they'd have just given that handball against Bobo Baldi, that would have been all right. It'd have been 2-0 up then, and we're
yeah.
laughing. Anyway, God,
Would be there.
I can't believe I've just brought that up at the end. That's the worst note to end on possible. But yeah, no, listen, you've been great talking to you. Thank you very much for your time. You're going to Germany, so you're looking forward to that.
Yeah, yeah, looking forward. I've got a couple of holidays. I'm going to Japan first,
Nice.
with my girlfriend, and then going to Germany. So yeah, it'd be good to kind of get away. I never really got away last season, because I just moved house, so kind of putting it all together now. Two big trips, but yeah, hopefully come back refreshed and just the same as the players. Hopefully just kick on and look forward to the season ahead.
Good man. Well, hope it's a successful one. Again, thank you for talking to us, Ewan. And yeah, all the best, mate. Cheers.
No problem. Cheers, guys. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having me.
Thank you.
Cheers.